for being part of our study using the home test kits. We're going to share with you some experiences and insights others have had in using the kits. These accounts are from actual participants in a similar study conducted recently. These scenarios are not offering mandatory instructions or guidelines that you must follow. How you use the kit is up to you. But we're hoping these accounts will give you ideas on how to make the home tests work best for you. The faces you will see are not the actual participants. They are actors. But the testimonials they share are about real experiences related to us by the participants who use the tests with partners. After each testimonial, we will review the main points of participants' experiences.
The first time I tried it, it was with this guy I met at a bar. I invited him to go to my place. Started kissing, fooling around. Then I pulled back and say, hey, before we take this further, can we explore our history a little bit? The guy gives me this look like, say what? I just said it. Do you mind us testing our HIV status? It just so happens that I have my own test kits. That first time was kind of awkward, but then I got the hang of it with different partners. I will bring it up when we get into that point that we're talking about condom or no condom. I'd say, hey, recently I got tested and I'm negative and I can show you that. One guy once said, what, are we going to a clinic? I'd say, no, we don't have to. I have the test with me. In fact, I have two. So we can figure out what we want to get into. Sometimes I'd get a funny reaction, but a lot of times it's just, wow, cool.
I've been with this one guy a few times. We always use condoms, but we didn't like them, so we talked about maybe getting tested together so we didn't have to use them. So when I got the test kits, I told him, he asked if they were accurate. I told him they were just like going to the health department or a hospital. We then talked about what would happen if the results were positive for one of us. I told him to take his time to think about it. So we just hung out and we watched TV for a little while. After about half an hour, he said, okay, let's do the test.
One time I was with this guy, we hadn't gotten very far and I started to talk up the test. I realized pretty quick I was kind of jumping the gun. The next time I was with someone, I brought up the test just as things were getting sexual, before I had him too turned on, but that didn't work. You can't just put the brakes on a hot moment. I realized I probably shouldn't just think of a time and throw it down. Hey, let's do this test. I had to lay the groundwork, talk about how the test works, make sure they understand the test before you bring it up. The test becomes something that makes what the two of us are doing together safer. And if it's safer, it's more enjoyable. For me, anyway.
Participants brought up the home test to their partners in a variety of ways in various settings. While hanging out, before sex got started, sex had begun and was moving toward intercourse. Partners may be more willing to use the test if you have had some time to get to know each other. You bring up the test casually and discuss how it's beneficial to both. You offer to do the test in front of your partner.
There have been some guys that I didn't test because they simply said no. They didn't get upset, but they basically said, I know what my status is. And sometimes they would tell me, and sometimes they wouldn't tell me. And that made me think twice about what I wanted to do with them. But in the end, I didn't reject them over it.
I had just started using the test kits when I met this real cute masculine type guy. He knew I was transgender, so we went back to his place, you know for what. We started kissing, touching each other, then our clothes started coming off. I started, picking up my HIV testing kit, and he was like, oh, what is that? I was like, oh, it's an HIV testing kit, I wanna try it with you. Immediately, he was like, oh no, I never agreed to take no test. He started screaming at me and yelling at me, and then meanwhile, in my head, I'm thinking he wants raw sex. But you know what? I stood strong. If he wasn't gonna take the test, there was no way I was gonna stay there. Sometimes the way people say no just lets you, know like they're not really gonna tell you anything at all, like certain stuff especially. It made me realize that I didn't need guys like that in my life. So later on, it became easier for me to choose partners because I started picking guys that were more open-minded, guys who would treat me better.
People may refuse testing for a variety of reasons. They prefer to be tested in private or by their healthcare provider. They suspect they are HIV positive and they may not want to share their status with you. They're afraid of getting an HIV test. Consider why they're refusing to take the test before you decide what you'll do next.
I met this young guy on the computer, and he was really built. He was hot off the gun, man. He was all like, come on over and meet me. You're not gonna regret it. Good times for all. So I met him at a bar, and we had a couple beers. And he starts telling me about his job in construction, and like how none of his coworkers know about his sex thing with other dudes. And at first I wasn't gonna get involved with him because of him being so super macho, I wasn't into that. But we kept drinking, and I ended up going to his place. By then, I was a little hesitant to tell him about the test because of the way he was acting, and because we were in his apartment, I felt a little vulnerable. I almost didn't tell him, but then I did. And I took out the test in front of him to show it to him, sort of to give him the chance to say, hey, let me take the test. But instead he says, why would I want to take that? So I say, look, this is a big city. You'll never know. I just want to prove to you that I'm negative. So he finally agrees to take the test. And while we're waiting, we start making out. And when the test was ready, I looked at it, and it was positive. And he got really defensive. What do you mean? This must be wrong. Give me another test. I said I didn't have another test to give him. So he got really defensive. He started yelling and cursing, and he threw the test on the ground and started stomping on it. It was really late. It was like 2 a.m. by then, and the situation was really tense. So I said, look, I'll bring another test tomorrow morning, eh? But he was not having it. He was like, this is bullshit. And so I left. The next day I called him, and I left a couple messages and a couple referral numbers, but he never called me back.
Your safety is a priority. Have a plan for dealing with an angry partner before you get into a situation. If someone gets angry, consider not doing the test or dropping the subject or leaving. Listen carefully to a person's reaction when you bring up HIV. It may signal how they will respond to doing the test with you. If you sense that a partner won't react positively to being tested, consider not making the offer.
This one time I had trouble with the test because I'd been drinking with this guy, and we didn't put the tube on an even surface, and it fell to the floor, and the swabbing got all messed up, and it didn't read at all. I think that I would want to avoid doing the test if we'd been drinking, because that's when the fear and the jealousy and the insecurity, or whatever you want to call it, might come out. This other time I was with this guy, and we were going to smoke some pot, and while he was rolling the joint, I said, why don't we do the test first? That way we won't be high if the results don't come out in our favor. So he starts rolling the joint, and I said, wait, let's wait until after we get the results. So we waited, and we didn't smoke pot until after we saw that everything was fine.
Using alcohol or drugs may affect the outcome of the testing in various ways. Test results may not be accurate if you drink alcohol or eat in the 30 minutes before taking the test. Being drunk or high can make it difficult to do the test correctly. It might be more difficult to deal with a positive test result if you've been drinking or using drugs.
I met this cute guy through a friend at a dinner. We started flirting, talking about the partners we'd had. Before you know it, we're heading to my place. I have a lot of test kits, so I explained the study to him, that it was all about HIV awareness and risk-taking. So I said, why don't we get tested and then we can have as much fun as we want? Oh, that went well. Then he got the result. There were 2 lines, positive. Apparently he had no idea, and he was kind of shocked. Positive? What do you mean positive? I said, hey, listen, this is very straightforward and accurate. And then he got pretty upset. I offered him to go to a clinic so he can get retested. Whatever he wanted, I'll be there with him. He just said that he needed some time alone and he left. We never did hook up, but I have to say we'd become friends, and I speak to him pretty often. He's doing okay. It was a big event for him, obviously. He's on meds and he's gone through some positive changes since then. I think I handled it as well as I could have. Staying calm, not pushing him to do anything, just being available.
It's not easy handling somebody else's positive results. Once again, it might help to have a plan on how to handle this kind of outcome before it actually happens to you. Reassure your partner that you will respect his privacy. You can offer your partner the resource information card you were given. You can remind him that the result is preliminary and must be confirmed.
I have to say it was a very interesting experience. I mean, I used to think that a condom was all I had when it came to protection and trust, but the home test changed everything. Yes, it's unusual and guys react. You know, some think it's really cool and awesome. I think it's a great idea, but others are opposed big time and don't want to do it for whatever maybe less than honest reason. Overall, more guys wanted to take the test than I expected. Everyone thought it was a kind of novel concept, no matter what they decided in the end. I would say they sell birth control and pregnancy tests over the counter so that people can find out if they're pregnant. Now you can find out if you're positive or negative. You have the test right in your hands. You can take it now.
People think they know if they're positive or negative, but how can they be sure? It's easy to list HIV negative on a profile or website, but what's the proof? Even if someone has results papers, it could be from an old test. For it to be actually in front of you, you've got to do the test right then and there, in front of the other person, even if there's a window of possible error. And when you bring up taking the test with someone, that's a pretty good indication of what's going on with that person. Also, you get a major hurdle out of the way. Yeah, there's the other batch of STDs, but you know, this is the one that most people are uncomfortable with. And by taking the test, you've dealt with it. You can have as much safe sex as you want, but when you know your status, it's much better. I bring it up with everyone.
That concludes our video. We hope you found it informative and helpful. Thank you.